Have you ever wondered what true bravery looks like? Not the kind found on battlefields, but the kind that takes place in the secret chambers of the heart. Who is the bravest royal heroine in the Bible? The queen who risked her throne, her safety, and her very life to save her people. Today, we tell the incredible story of Queen Esther. Stay with us until the end, because her journey of courage and faith will leave you inspired. And if you love stories of strength and destiny from the Bible, make sure you subscribe right now so you don't miss the next one. Esther's humble beginnings. Before Esther wore a crown, she knew sorrow. She was an orphan, raised by her cousin Mordecai in the foreign land of Persia. Her parents were gone, her people lived in exile, and yet the God of Israel had not forgotten her. Life in Persia was glittering for the rich, but difficult for outsiders. And for the Jews, it was a life lived under the shadow of uncertainty. Still, Esther grew in beauty, grace, and wisdom. When the king Ahasuerus dismissed his queen Vashti in disgrace, a search began for a new queen. Esther, a young Jewish woman, was chosen. She stepped into a world of wealth and splendor, yet she carried a secret, her true identity. Friends, think about that for a moment. Esther walked through golden halls but never forgot the dust of her childhood streets. She wore royal robes, but beneath them beat the heart of a girl from a people despised. And that very secret would one day become the key to destiny. The enemy's plot. But as Esther rose to power, danger also rose. A man named Haman, promoted to the highest rank under the king, carried a deep hatred in his heart. Why? Because Mordecai, Esther's cousin, refused to bow to him. Haman's pride turned to rage, and his rage turned to cruelty. He wasn't satisfied with punishing one man. He wanted an entire people destroyed. He convinced the king to issue a decree that on a chosen day all Jews in the empire would be slaughtered. Men, women, children, no one spared. Imagine hearing that decree read aloud in the streets. Imagine the fear that swept through the Jewish communities scattered across the empire. A death sentence had been signed against them. Viewers, let me ask you, what would you do if your people were marked for destruction? Would you stay silent, or would you rise to speak? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you think you'd respond. Mordecai's challenge. When Mordecai learned of the decree, he tore his clothes and wept bitterly. But he also sent word to Esther. She, after all, was queen. Perhaps she could intercede with the king. At first, Esther hesitated. She knew the law. No one could approach the king uninvited. To do so meant death unless the golden scepter was extended. And it had been 30 days since she had last seen the king. But Mordecai's reply carried a message that has echoed through the centuries. Do not think that in the king's house you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Those words hit Esther like a lightning bolt. For such a time as this. Her crown was no accident. Her position was not random. She was in the palace by divine design. And so Esther made her choice. She sent word back to Mordecai. Go, gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as well. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. That, my friends, is the voice of courage. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. And if you're inspired by Esther's bravery already, hit the like button right now. It really helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. The throne room. 3 days later, Esther dressed in her royal robes. She walked with steady steps into the throne room, her heart pounding. Every eye turned. The law was clear. One wrong move, and her life would end. The king saw her. The court held its breath. Then slowly, deliberately, the king extended his golden scepter. Esther lived. But more than that, she had won favor. The king spoke. What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even to half my kingdom it shall be granted. But Esther was wise. She did not speak too soon. She invited the king and Haman to a banquet. The banquets and the sleepless night. At the first banquet, the king pressed her again for her request. Esther invited him and Haman to a second banquet. Meanwhile, Haman's pride swelled. He boasted to his family about dining with the queen and king alone. But his joy was poisoned by one sight: Mordecai refusing to bow. In his fury, he built a gallows on which to hang Mordecai. Yet that night, the king could not sleep. He ordered the chronicles of his reign to be read, and there he discovered that Mordecai had once saved his life from assassination. The king asked, "What honor has been given to Mordecai?" The answer: nothing. So when Haman entered the next morning, ready to request Mordecai's death, the king spoke first. "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Haman, thinking of himself, suggested robes, a royal horse, and a public parade. The king agreed and ordered Haman to honor Mordecai in that very way. Can you picture it? The man who plotted death, now parading his enemy through the streets, proclaiming his greatness. This is not coincidence. This is providence. The second banquet and the great reveal. Finally, the moment came. At the second banquet, the king asked again, "What is your petition?" "It shall be granted you." And Esther, with courage burning in her heart, spoke the truth. "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. If we had been sold merely as slaves, I would have held my tongue. But we are marked for death." The king, shocked, asked, "Who is he? And where is he? Who has dared to do this?" And Esther pointed her finger. "The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman." The room exploded with tension. The king rose in anger. Haman, trembling, begged for his life, but it was too late. The king ordered him hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. The enemy was defeated, the plot was overturned, and the honor of the Jews was restored. The deliverance. The king issued a new decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves. On the appointed day, they rose up and triumphed over their enemies. Mordecai was elevated to a place of honor, clothed in royal garments, and Esther's name was remembered for generations. From fear to courage, from silence to boldness, Esther's story reveals this eternal truth. God places us where we are for a reason, and sometimes all it takes is one person willing to stand to change the course of his. My friends, was Esther the bravest royal heroine in the Bible? I believe so, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If this story inspired you, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible Bible stories of courage and faith. And if you're ready for another powerful journey, watch our next video on the story of Joseph, a young man who rose from slavery to the palace by the hand of God. Because just like Esther, Joseph shows us that destiny often begins in the shadows, but shines in the light of God's purpose.